Let's dive into it right off the bat with Najee Harris, running back out of Alabama, 6'2", 230 pounds. This guy is a big-time runner, right? This guy is just a big guy, but who's also very agile and a very, very good pass catcher. I remember when we were scouting running backs last year before Najee decided to go back, we were watching film. We're like, wow, Najee really impresses me in his passing game. That's one of the things I saw out of there, like, impressed me. And he comes back in 2020 and expands on that exponentially, right? He gets even more involved in the passing game. He's one of the biggest running backs in this class, a guy who never puts the ball on the ground. This is a guy who made a ton of people miss out there at Alabama. I know some of you guys have some concerns about Najee. I know that as well. But for me, I saw a guy that is just that big physical running back who is very, very viable in the passing game. So when I look at these running backs, again, all these running backs, what I'm looking at is like, how can they help my dynasty team, right? I'm not looking at how they're going to be NFL running backs. Like, there's a lot of running backs. That's why I hate on Derrick Henry early on is, hey, this guy can help an NFL team. There's a couple of running backs we're going to talk about today that I think can help NFL teams, but I don't look at them as viable NFL or dynasty fantasy football running backs. So when I look at Najee Harris, I see the upside of him being a high-end running back one, but I also see the floor of just a very safe running back, right? He's going to help you in the PPR game. Yeah. He's going to get you first downs. He's going to be physical. I mean, he's got all the right abilities to be an inside and outside runner.
He definitely has all the right pieces. Some of the concerns that I have that I saw on tape was he has a tendency to run high, which kind of takes away some of the power that you would think you would get out of a 230-pound back. I see him getting pushed backwards and taken down on some plays with some smaller, either linebackers or defensive backs that I think he should be able to take those guys on. And if he could lower the shoulder a little bit more, I think that would help. But I think that something that goes into that is I don't know if his hips are too tight a little bit or something, but he just doesn't move laterally, I think, in a smooth manner. He can do it and get going, but there's times where I saw him like almost completely have to stop to change directions.
Yeah, his acceleration, like the way he accelerates out of his cuts, isn't like he's not very explosive.
He's a little herky-jerky almost when he's doing some of the open field stuff. So I just have some concerns in those areas. And like you said, his passing game chops have gotten exponentially better. He went from 6 catches to 4 catches to 27 catches to 43 this past year. So I know, and he looks natural doing it. They even split him out wide at some points, and he ran like little in slanting passes and stuff like that, or in slanting routes. So there is a fantasy football, I think, floor for him, and that is the one thing that I like about him, because he can get involved down at the goal line. I think because he's big enough. He can do that kind of stuff. He can be involved in the passing game, and he's an in between the tackle type of guy. I love him when he's not asked to dance and move around too much in the hole. If he sees a hole and he's just going straight ahead, he looks fantastic. He's got great burst going in a straight line. So if he gets into the right offense, I could see him actually leapfrogging and getting into that second spot for me. But from what I've seen so far on tape, and I still have more to do, admittedly, I'm gonna watch every one of these games that I possibly can out of these top 3 to kind of really sift through the weeds. But I just don't. From the early tape evaluation, I just don't see the same kind of stuff that I see from Javonte Williams.
Yeah, I saw a guy with his size. Like, I can't really impress how big he is, right? We're talking about a guy who's 6'2", 230 pounds. And you mentioned, I do have some concerns about the way, he gets in and out of his cuts. But for a guy of his size, he has a really nice jump cut, right? I saw him hurdle a couple guys multiple times, so he's really good athletically there. Again, the way he could change direction for a guy of his size is really nice as well. It's just his speed's not there. Like,
his top end speed.
Some of that, there's a lot of comps to a lot of his negative comps are close to Javonte Williams comps for me. Like, if I'm looking at their negatives, right? Him and Javonte Williams are close with their negatives, I guess, for me. It's just Najee's a better pass catcher than Javonte Williams in my eyes.
I do agree. I think that is definitely Najee's best attribute is his receiving ability, especially at that frame. It's really impressive to see him do that. But as I've mentioned on the show a couple times, and I've mentioned on Twitter, that's one thing that has lowered for me in my importance is, if they're a good pass catcher, that's awesome, but it's really just become a pass fail for me. We saw it last year. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the best in the class. Josh Jacobs the year before. They were the 2 best, and they just haven't been used that way. Jonathan Taylor and James Robinson weren't super great. catch tons of passes. So it's really just become more of a pass fail for me. And clearly he passes with flying colors. He's one of the better ones in the class. But that's lowered on its level of importance for me. We also have to remember he's running behind, a really good offensive line. I think he hit most of the holes that you would expect him to hit. There were times that I saw him miss a few, and everyone's going to miss a few, so that is going to happen. But there were a lot of wide open holes. Matt, I agree with you. I do think he is a little bit upright. I think I like his feet a little bit better than you. I think his feet are pretty good overall, but it's the burst that I have like some concerns with. I don't think he's overly bursty of a player. And so, a lot of the comps are like, okay, well, he's going to be Derrick Henry with pass catching. The hard part is he's not as fast. He's not as strong. He's like, there's just a lot of those kinds of things. But I do agree with the point that I think you both made this point. I think he's very safe. Like, I don't see a world where he's not an RB2. Like that world just doesn't exist. Like, he's going to be an RB2 no matter what. Ceiling, I think he could be a low end RB1. I just don't see him as that, like, oh my goodness, Saquon Barkley. Oh my goodness. Like,
definitely not.
I don't see him in that type of stratosphere for me personally.
Well, to be fair, those guys are few and far between.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, those guys don't come. Like, I think over the last couple of years, we've been somewhat spoiled as well with some of the guys that have come out here. You know what I mean? Like, when you get to Saquon's, when you get to, the DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor's guys along those lines as well. There's none of those guys in this class, I guess, essentially, but there's they're very, very good running backs. And you mentioned his feet. Like, I love Najee Harris in the short. Like, Javonte Williams has much better burst, right? But like, they both get there differently. I feel like Najee Harris and Javonte Williams. Like, Javonte has that one cut and he gets that burst and he's up there, but then that's it, because he doesn't have those big runs either. And I know, Najee, to be fair, Najee doesn't have these big runs as well.
Yeah, neither one of them are breaking off 60-yard runs.
They don't have that high-end speed. That's where I love and that's why Travis Etienne fell to my number 2, because like, he offers that big play.
And that's why he's up to my number 2
fantasy football relevance. You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost sometimes I feel like, okay, is Travis Etienne getting the DeAndre Swift treatment, right? Is where,
we've
like,
seen him too long?
Yeah, where DeAndre Swift was the one guy all the way through, and then all of a sudden the draft comes, and he falls down a little bit because we fall in love with these other guys, and here we are 12 months later, and everybody wants DeAndre Swift again, right? Does Travis Etienne get some of that treatment? Because, I guess his tape wasn't as great as 2019 and 2020, but again, it was 2020. It was a different year.
It was.
So it's a little bit harder to go there. So,
and their offensive line wasn't as good this past season as
the
year before as well. So, there was a lot of things that went into that.
What I like about Najee is just he offers so much on the inside, on the outside, on the pass catch ability. He could pass protect. And like you said, so for you, it's pass fail on the pass catching skill set. But like, I just don't go that. I don't go that way with it as well, because I like to see if that running back can run routes, right? There's a couple of guys in here that have some pass. We're going to talk about that. We're able to catch the football, but all their passes were dump off plays. I can't remember what running back it is. It's my notes, but like, all his receptions were off dump off plays. Like, when I watch, or like little wheel routes,
or there's some that just didn't catch any passes,
like 0.0.
There's one.
But when you watch Najee, he kind of like excelled a little bit, where he was actually will run some routes, right? He was catching the ball away from his body. He was able to adjust.
He's very good. I'm
the
totally
pass
with
protection. He's going to have high draft pedigree as well, which I always contribute as well, because I do look at Javonte Williams and Najee Harris as first contract running backs. I do look at them both high-end running backs, but both first contract running backs, which means after that first contract, like most running backs, I'm trying to get out at right around year 4 when the value's super high and reinvest. So I look at Najee Harris. To me, we mentioned a safe floor, which is always nice to have, but he offers that ability to be that high-end running back one as well, because I think that PPR game does expand in him being a high-end running back.
One thing I do want to give Najee some credit for, because I felt like I kind of had to play the negative role because I have Javonte over him. But one thing I do want to give him credit for, I remember watching his 2019 tape and seeing like hardly any burst at all, and seeing like not like I wasn't impressed with the speed at all. You can tell that guy put in the work, because even though I still don't think his burst is special in any way, it's significantly better than I thought it was as a junior. So like you can tell that he put in the work. Everything that we're hearing from like a character standpoint is, they speak volumes of him. Even when Jared and I were watching him at the Senior Bowl, like he was a guy that was like a real fun loving guy, and everybody was, you could tell everybody was drawn to him. Even the coaches were drawn to him, obviously. Right. So
Miami Dolphins,
yeah, cough.
Have you guys watched any of his interviews? Post-game interviews, any press conferences?
The one after Ohio State game was funny.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a funny dude.
He's a very marketable guy.
And you mentioned Team Guy just yesterday. Najee Harris, there was a lightning storm in Dallas, so his plane flight got canceled for the Alabama Pro Day. So he drove 9 hours today to the Pro Day. He just wanted to be there to support his teammates. He wasn't even running. He wasn't doing any drills or things. So that's the kind of guy Najee is.
Yep.
And again, that's character means some things as well.
It absolutely does.
A big time running back at Alabama. Alabama's pushing out dynasty talent left and right. It's a high pedigree guy that does everything.
Yeah, number one guy in his class coming out.
And he does everything well. I guess, is that a good way to describe Najee? He does everything pretty much well that you want out of a running back. He does
most things well.
You have your concerns, but in my eyes, he does everything pretty well. Like I think he's good enough in the open field. I love his short area quickness as well. The burst is in there, but he uses his feet really well to find the lanes and get out there and make people miss and bounce people off him because he does have the size. And again, I love his pass catching ability. This is a guy that I can envision averaging over 4 yards per carry in the NFL, being a team's number one 3-down workhorse back, which again, that itself is, if you can find those kind of guys, worth its weight in gold, because that's going to be Etienne's biggest question mark. Will he be the 3-down kind of back?
Which is hilarious because his questions early on in his career were, could he catch the ball?
And
then it's like completely flipped.
Right. So he worked a lot on that. Yeah, he looks a lot better.
And I love that as well. So my biggest worry again is going to come back to is like, am I going to give Travis Etienne the DeAndre Swift treatment? Because last year I had Etienne ahead of Najee Harris. This year I have Najee Harris ahead of.
I had Etienne ahead of him too.
So Najee Harris. So we all like him.
Yep.
He offers a very safe floor, and he's definitely a top, let's say, 1 QB. He's locked in as a top 3 rookie pick for you guys.
Yeah, I can't see myself at this point. As much as I love Devonta Smith, I think Jamar Chase is really good too. Especially with how tough it is to get those running backs anytime other than my rookie draft.
Yeah.
I can't see me walking away with a top 3 pick and not taking one of those.
And how
guys.
Deep this class is at receiver.
Super
where if you
deep.
have 1, 1, 1, 2, you're going to get a solid receiver at 1, 3.
5 weeks on the wide receiver class.
Right. It's going to be a while.